What inspired us to really commission the piece was we had played last year, Tommy and I, and played a piece called Strange Dreams. And it was kind of near and dear to us just because of it was just it told a story. And we could really dive into that and really bring out a lot of things and change things and tell a different story not different, but a little different every time. And so that meant a lot to us. But then Teresa, she approached me afterwards, and we just started talking about it. And she said, "Well, I'd really like to, if you'd be interested, I'd like to collaborate with you at some point." And I said, "Yeah, that would be wonderful." She has tough pieces, and this one's not easy. But I told her I like pretty pieces. I like lyrical pieces, and she's like, "Good, I do too." So, and that's where we kind of started heading in, maybe I think in that direction.
All That Remains started out being inspired by the feeling of things passing away or no longer being there, such as, a childhood memory of a house that you used to visit, like a grandmother's house, that would no longer be there because of, for whatever reason, or it's changed, it looks different. So I was struggling with the piece until I met with my friend Jenny, and we spent the day together, and she was going through cancer radiation treatment, and I accompanied her second to last treatment. And I was telling her at lunch about the piece and my inspiration, and I said, "Is this even a good title, All That Remains?" And she loved it. I was diagnosed with breast cancer at 36 weeks pregnant and only 34 years old. My original diagnosis was not one that gave us much of a conversation about hope, and I delivered my baby with the understanding that I likely wouldn't live to see his first birthday. A few days after he was born, I had the surgery to install the chemotherapy port, and my lung was seriously punctured, which left me in the ICU for nearly 2 weeks and obviously delayed me from the cancer treatments, in which we took the baby early to start as soon as possible when we already thought that it might be too late. This separated me from my family at a time when I really needed them most, and we thought this could be the last time that we have together. And on top of all of that, my husband was at home working full-time, managing things with a newborn baby and our 1 and our 3-year-old boys. And our newborn son also experienced complications with his lungs, and we later learned that my husband also had a brain aneurysm. So it was just honestly surreal to think that only a few months before we were 100% independent, fast-paced family, looking forward to the birth of our new child, and then all of a sudden it just comes to a complete stop and you're helpless. So we were just truly clinging on to the philosophy of one day at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 minute at a time. And we're just so grateful for our family and friends who made this all possible, which includes my good friend Teresa.
It's a universal experience, at least at some point in somebody's life, whether it be cancer or, like in my case, my dad just died suddenly, and I was really close to him, and you'll never ever forget that moment. that I woke up, my mom called me at 2 o'clock in the morning, and it's that moment where it's just everything is just stops, There was kind of an aha moment in our first rehearsal, and it was just that transition right into the second movement where all of a sudden it just stops and there's just a big wall, and I just remember thinking that about when I learned about my dad. So I just stopped at that moment in the rehearsal, and I just told Tommy that's what that is, and so I think I'll always remember that part of it.
When I first heard the piece, I just had to stop and honestly process what I had just heard. And I didn't even know it was about me at that point. I think when I was done, I told her I just had to close my eyes and just feel it. I just felt like the music was floating in and out of reality. It had this memory, dreamlike presence about itself. But I think what resonated most with me is that it was sad, but it didn't leave you feeling hopeless. And it allowed you to go to that place where you have that safe, dark place to acknowledge the harsh reality of what you're hiding from others and probably yourself. And it's an important ability to be able to do something like that, but still be able to pull yourself out of it. I think that this piece makes that possible. It's just so faded, but still so intentional. And there's this surreal ambiguity about it, but it just keeps playing with these dynamics of, opposing ambiguity with purpose and faded qualities with such strict intention. It's just amazing how she's done all of that. So then when she revealed that it was about me, I just fell apart. I was just sobbing, sitting there with her at her kitchen table as we were sitting there listening to it on her computer. And I guess the way that she captured my story, it's just unbelievable. And I couldn't believe how she could so accurately capture such complicated emotions and with such depth. It was amazing.
I think actually sitting down and listening from top to bottom after reading your story in the program notes and just kind of going on that journey, I think that would be something I would want people to do. Like sit down and say, okay, this happened. This person's still alive. It went through all of this. Have that mental image and start from the top and go to the bottom. And don't, no distractions. Just sit down and listen to it. And I think that you'll hear it, which I can't actually say that about a lot of pieces that I've played. It's usually it's about this. I'm like, I have no idea what's happening. So anyway, that's what I would do. So whenever that recording comes out, sit from top to bottom, no distractions, read the story, and I bet you there'll be a moment you're like, oh, that's like when you heard the news, like that sort of thing.
for those who have the experience of something like that, of something that hits you as it just disrupts your life. We'll just say it, particularly a tragedy. If you know most people, everybody's gone through some type of sadness, but there's another tragedy, sadness that just stops you. And I would hope that they would experience that, I guess, in that piece, that it would come back around again, and not only, I don't want them to experience pain necessarily, but to feel that again, but also come out on the other side of that. That's what that piece is kind of, you make your way through that grief, and you learn to, maybe you're not getting rid of it, but you learn to live with it, and being empathetic towards others and more compassionate. That's what that piece means to me, and I would hope that audience would kind of come along with that too.
I think, especially when they get to the end of the first movement going into the second, I think you can really hear it. Like, hear the struggle of like, okay, everyday life, and all of a sudden you get the news, and then it's like, oh no. And then hoping that it gets better at the very end, that sort of thing. I think if they could hear the journey like we do, that's what I would hope. Yeah.
There's this unbelievably beautiful part toward the end of the piece where she kind of takes a pause from all of the tension and depicts the sounds of a music box. When I learned I was sick, my deepest devastation was the thought of my boys growing up without their mother, and they have been the foundation of every fiber of my being throughout my fight and my deepest purpose in my life. And this moment in the piece was so deeply personal for me, and it's devastating to think that I'm not alone in that. But the way Teresa depicts the innocence in such a creative and deeply emotional way is just so powerful. And I love how this interjects and the darkness returns for just a moment, because it's not like that goes away. But in the end, the brighter side of it shines through. Even if I make it through the rest of this piece without crying, I break down every time I get to this part without fail.
Most important thing when I'm composing music is that I find some connection with people that is going to resonate with people on a deep level. And I want to use my talent to, honor God and use the gifts that He's given me. And it's my hope that through my music, it will inspire people and bring them peace and joy and hope.
I told Teresa that this piece saved me, and I truly mean that. When you go through cancer treatments, you're terrified, but you power through, and you're scared, and you have no idea if it's going to work, and every day is a struggle. And then all of a sudden, you're done with active treatment, and everything comes to a halt. But even if you make it through, everything about you has changed, and there's no way to really return to that original person that you were. I mean, it's just not possible. And you're supposed to go back to normal, well, what does that mean? It doesn't work like that. Whether it's a situation like mine or any other type of traumatic experience, it's all the same. Who you were as the person that you knew before, and whatever it is that you are now, just you question, what is that, and how do those two versions of yourselves coexist, and can they? And that's why I think music is such a powerful tool. And I don't know how to describe it, but this composition has brought me such a sense of peace that has helped me to process emotions in a way that truly I never thought was possible. And that darkness will always be there. It'll always exist. It'll always be lingering. But what I love most about all that remains is that it very literally demonstrates that it's possible to break through those dark moments and find joy in the present, no matter what the future has in store.
I know that suffering is part of life, and I want this piece to be a way that people can find their way through it and find hope.